This month, I'll be talking to you in these YouTube videos around this idea of high emotion topics and how to discuss them in classrooms and what are the various resources that can help us to do that well. So today we're going to talk about sending a letter to families that introduces the concept of talking about high emotion topics and how they can support and what they should expect. So let's get into a sample letter that I'll link in the description as well that you can take and use for yourself. A draft letter that I co-created with Dr. Eric Soto-Shed for San Francisco Unified School District as a template and that you can use. So dear families, we really kind of want to make sure what we name up front is the goal, right? The goal is not to teach kids particular stances on things, but it's to make sure that they're prepared, right? This is something that they need for life to engage with current events, right? We want them to have a factual understanding of what is happening. We want them to be curious to learn more, and we want them able to engage in interpersonal conversations. And we want to make sure that when they do that, they treat everyone with dignity, right? These are like life skills. So to do that, here's what we're going to be doing, right? So for us in this particular instance, we're doing PD sessions, but you can name, whatever your school or district or classroom will be doing. Now, here is the part that I think is really important to name. This is like the why behind the work. So for anyone who is nervous or for families who are nervous about having students engage in this work, here's the why, right? Helping your child, right, is the forefront of this, right? Whoever's reading this, they are saying, okay, how are you helping my child? Well, first of all, a supporting, caring environment is where we want students to process those thoughts and emotions. They're going to be exposed to current events and high emotion topics on the internet, in friend groups, in the news, however they're engaging in media, right? And when we have classrooms where teachers are building up those relationships between them and the students and across students, we are able to discuss within a context of a community of care, right? If you go online and you are seeking out answers by yourself, it's a lot harder to sense make, and it's a lot more like emotionally isolating and potentially harmful. When we have a deep reflection, we have a decreased risk of harm because we are going to specifically make sure that our teachers, or if you are the teacher writing to families, that you are designing these with the intent to mitigate harm as much as possible, and designing where we're not like opening up a question where people's identities are put up for debate, right? So we are analyzing the issues first, determining if the context is good, and if more work needs to be done. We're going to do it before we open it up for conversation. We're going to really clearly structure it, right? So students learning to think for themselves within a framework of care is the next kind of big piece, right? We are not teaching them what to think, but really answering this question that Hess and McAvoy talk about, really, how should we live together, right? And in that, we're going to invite them to think critically and invite them to determine what they think without violating what we I've been calling baseline understandings, comes from baseline assumptions, which we've talked about on this podcast before. This YouTube channel before. Finally, we're really wanting to improve students' critical relational and communication skills. This is really very important to do. And then lastly, we have this idea of how families can support at home. When your child brings up an event, here are the things you can do. Appreciate the willingness, get curious, clarify misconceptions, right? Start a conversation. If kids aren't bringing it up with you, how are you feeling about this, right? I saw this on the news. What questions do you have? Linked to value and need resources here as well, if that helps. And then also just kind of closing with don't hesitate to reach out, right? Opening that line of communication. Link to that document in the description, and you can just take it, edit it to your heart's content, and then use it for communication with your families.